Hi, welcome back to Zack of All Trades. I'm Zack, and tonight I'm finally going to sharpen my poor, sad, neglected pocket knife. Before we get to the knife sharpening bit, though, I'm going to do something that I don't typically do. I have made it a point in the past to not use my YouTube voice, so to speak, to take a stance behind a particular cause. I think with one exception once before. I feel that it's very easy for folks with an audience of 20,000 of you guys out there, if not more. It's easy for people to take advantage of that and to overuse that, and you wind up just sounding like a clanging gong. Just after I posted my last video about my knife, telling you all about my knife and remembering those young Marines that are always over there and saying a prayer for them every time that I put this knife in my hands, a friend of mine posted something on his webpage that hit really close to home, and I would like to appeal to you guys to consider something for me. On July 9th last year, 2017, a Marine Corps C-130 crashed in Mississippi, killing 15 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman on board. That crash had a profound effect on scores of us who had any sort of a personal connection to that world, to that airplane, to the people on board that airplane. Now, this is not about me and what connection that I did or did not have. Don't mistake that, please. The thing that my friend posted the other day to his page was the fact that the Marine Corps League of Mississippi is raising funds in order to erect a memorial to the crew of Yankee 7-2. They're hoping to raise about $50,000, of which, at last count, I believe that they've raised about $8,000 so far. I'll post a link in the description below to the page for the Marine Corps League of Mississippi, where there's a PayPal donate link. I think it's over on the right-hand side. I think I'll also link the Marine Battle Herc page, where there's a little bit more of a description of what the monument is going to be, as well as, well, it's the Marine Corps Battle Herc page. It's a pretty cool page to go check out. Again, I don't take this sort of thing lightly, so please consider it and go take a look at that page and maybe make a donation if you feel led. Now on to the knife sharpener. As I mentioned in the last video, in order to sharpen this knife, I've dug out this apparatus that I built, I don't know, 5, maybe 7 years ago, that, well, if you've watched many of the knife sharpening gadgets, whether it be EdgePro or that fancy Russian knife sharpener, you kind of start to get the same idea. You start to see the common denominator, that what those are doing is just helping you to maintain a consistent angle with the stone against your blade. Well, I watched a couple of those and decided that I didn't have several $100s to be coughing up for a knife sharpener, but I figured I could cobble together one by myself. I feel like I got most of the aspects right, but discontinued use, I don't know, just because I just never got the results that I was hoping for out of it. Now, a few more years have gone by, a little bit more wisdom or something has soaked into my brain, and now I think I can sit back and kind of take another look at it, maybe figure out what I was doing wrong, and I'm going to give it another shot. One of the first things that strikes me as I picked this up and started fooling with it is something that I remember. I don't know if you can really see that, is that this little platen here, the post that it sits on, moves. Well, that's not good for maintaining a consistent angle when you're trying to sharpen something. Granted, it's not much, but it's more than none. After looking at this, I realized what I had done. When I pilot drilled these holes into here, I didn't drill it. I drilled it all the same size. So the threads are engaging here, this piece of wood, as well as engaging here. And so they're not really able to pull this piece tight against that piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these screws out. I'm going to drill these holes just a little bit bigger so that these screws are actually pulling this piece of wood up tight with the next one. That way it'll hopefully hold it all together. There, you can see the movement a little bit better. I don't know if this counts as Murphy's Law or something, but I used these really cool square drive fasteners when I made this, just because that's what I had a bunch of for some reason. And now I cannot for the life of me find a square drive fastener. So I've got another plan. I figured out that the tail of this mill bastard file is about the right dimensions. So I'm going to shape it a little bit and see if I can't get this to act as a square drive. Success. I will not be putting those guys back in it. Okay, all it took was enlarging that hole a little bit, and we'll see if that did. See if that did the trick. And I feel like the hole on the other side maybe is too big now. Oh, sweet. What the? Longer screws, I guess. And of course, longer screws require bigger hole. Now let's try it again. That thing is rock solid now. That's a good step. The next problem that this thing has, or had, was this wing nut right here. The way that I had it set up before was a little slotted piece of wood that the wing nut tightened down on, and it clamped the blade into place. Well, in the wrong position, the wing nut makes contact with the stones. That's no good. So I think I'm going to discontinue the wing nut altogether, at least for this phase. Maybe I'll revisit it later, but I've got another idea in mind. But we got to get rid of this stud here. Now the last thing that I've got to deal with is my stones that are, as you can plainly see, no longer glued in here like they came. Like many others, I got to watching videos quite some time back and discovered that I was doing it all wrong, that I needed to be able to have, instead of having all three of my stones attached to this one thing where you send the knife across it, I needed to have my stones liberated from this, and so I could put them all, each individually, in my hand. I then peeled them out of this thing and proceeded to drop one on the floor. As a matter of fact, over the course of time, I dropped two of them on the floor. And so these wooden things here were a couple of things. They were both practice in precision mortising, right? They were also a way to hold these stones together and make them what I think is still somewhat useful. But, you know, again, I've learned some stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out. I'm going to glue them with an epoxy and both glue them back together and glue them back onto this thing, which is dead flat, and that will hold them in place. We'll see if it works like that. I have to say I'm not entirely sure how I am to get these out of their holders. When I made their holders, they fit in there perfectly. I don't think that I glued them in there. I got an idea. What do you mean you don't have any homemade chisels? Alright, here is the fine stone. Give that a good cleaning. We'll wipe down with some acetone. And now the epoxy. These little new little 6-pack holders are kind of interesting. I guess this is so that they don't injure sea creatures, maybe? I don't know. Noble enough, I guess. I don't know, but I've read that this is the way to do it. We'll see how it turns out. Alright, gonna let that set up. And in the words of everybody's favorite YouTuber from the Great White Frozen North, today is now tomorrow. Good morning. Let's get back to this. Over the night, my epoxy set up, both holding my stones together as well as attaching them back to the tri-hone from whence they came. Now I think it's about time to get down to business. I want to address something real quick. This stone right here, if I close my eyes, I cannot feel the difference. So I don't feel the need to flatten this stone. It is, although you can see the separation right there, or, the crack, you can't feel a difference in it. The coarse stone, you can feel a little bit of a difference there. So before I use this, I am going to need to flatten it out. I was looking up some ways how to do that last night, and it seems like the thing to do, or the thing that I would do if I had the sandpaper, is use some 100 grit or 150 grit sandpaper, put it down on a flat surface, piece of glass or something like that, and then just run this around on it until it flattens it out. Two things: I don't have the sandpaper, and I don't need to use the coarse stone. My knife is not, I'm not reshaping my knife, I'm just sharpening it, so I don't need to use this one. This one is perfectly good, and, well, this one's not cracked. I did also wipe the fine stone down with a little bit of acetone just to get any of the epoxy off of there, so it doesn't gum up the works while I'm sharpening. Like I said before, my understanding of the key to getting a good sharp blade is consistency in the angle, which is what this whole apparatus is set up to ensure. So what I need to do is I need to attach this knife to this little platen here, and then I need to determine the angle and set it, and then I can just do my thing. I'm going to pull this off of here first, and I'm going to use this little guy. This is where I feel like my system still has some shortcomings, is in the retention, because this is only going to be good for so far before the stone starts running into this. Fortunately, this knife, I only have a pretty small area to sharpen, and I think it'll be okay. Let's test it out here. Oh yeah, you can get the whole blade without running into that clamp. You hear that sound? It means it's breakfast time. Okay, back from breakfast, and I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to a 25-degree angle. Now what's tricky with this knife is it's not flat, so there's differences in the profile of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get 25 degrees to this flat surface here. I've got this little block that is 25 degrees and I'm way off. So I'm gonna raise this up. And there we go. That feels like 25 degrees. Tighten this thing down. And with a little simple grain on the medium stone, start doing it. Flip it over. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the fine stone. See how that guy feels. Oh yeah, that's nice. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to address these serrations. I think the proper way to do this would be with a couple of different size round files and hit it almost like you would a chainsaw. I don't have files like that, so I'm going to take a different approach. Since that's only cut on one side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it at a very flat angle. Try to hit it on the back side here and just take that back just a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to try to. I'm going to try to avoid scraping off all the coating and stuff. And for this, I am going to try to hold it by hand. And I don't know. You know, the thing about it is that this serrated part, it's jagged and it's ugly. It's made to be that way. And that's what gives it its, I don't know, its beef, right? Is the fact that it is jagged. So honestly, I'm not going to spend, I don't even know if I'm going to spend any more time on this serrated edge because, well, whether it's perfectly sharp or it's not, you're not depending upon the razor sharpness of the serration to cut. You're moving it, and it's cutting like a, cutting like a tooth saw. I know that's not a real good analogy, but yeah, I think that's plenty sharp enough. And I think we have a good blade. So people tend to freak out when you cut the hair on your arm to prove that your knife is sharp. So I won't do that. No, that'd be silly. Yeah, just kidding. So there you have it. My Hillbilly knife sharpener seems to be working at a cost of well, not $0 because I did have to buy the Tri-Hone, the Arkansas stones, I don't know, years ago, 10 years ago. But the apparatus itself seems to be functioning the way that I wanted it to in the first place. I think maybe what I was doing wrong when I first built it and didn't have good results, I think that partially the little table moving was no good. And I think that I had my angles, I think maybe I didn't have the angles right. I didn't understand which angle or angles that I needed in order to get a good sharp blade. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. And like I said, go check out the link in the description to the Marine Battle Herc page and also the Marine Corps League of Mississippi. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you later. Take care.